אשרינו, אשרינו, מה טוב חוקנו, אשרינו, אשרינו, מה טוב חוקנו.
אשרינו, 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 מה טוב חוקנו, אשרינו, אשרינו, מה טוב חוקנו.
הומנויים, הומנויים, גוירולנו, הומנויים, נויים, גוירולנו. הומנויים, הומנויים, גוירולנו, הומנויים, נויים, גוירולנו. הומה יופו, 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 ירושלנו, הומה יופו, יופו, ירושלנו. Humanayim, humanayim, gayroleyno. Humanayim, nayim, gayroleyno. Humanayim, humanayim, gayroleyno. Humanayim, yafa, yafa, Yerushalayno, oh my yofo, yofo Yerushalayno, oh my yofo, yofo, yofo Yerushalayno, oh my yofo, yofo Yerushalayno. Oh manoyim, gayroleyno, oh manoyim, gayroleyno.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 70 years ago, out of the ashes of the Holocaust, a man, now known simply as the Rebbe, ascended to the stage of Jewish leadership. In the decades that followed, the Rebbe revolutionized our people, and he inspired millions the world over. His legacy of love and his ocean of insightful teachings continue to resonate with relevancy 26 years after his physical passing. This year we celebrate 70 years of the Rebbe's leadership. And this evening, we highlight one unique and inimitable facet of the Rebbe, a quality that will, please God, inspire each of us to take one step forward in our divine journey on earth. On behalf of Northern California's 62 Chabad centers, welcome to unlocking potential.
Over the next hour, you will have a front row view into how the Rebbe unlocked potential and hope within chaos and confusion. How he dug beneath the surface, how he unearthed diamonds and energy where others only saw a desolate wasteland. How he magnified the tiniest points of light embedded within the human soul. On behalf of Northern California's 62 Chabad centers, I want to welcome you. We hope this evening's program fills you with strength and joy during these confusing times. Sit back and enjoy.
Na Fayidne sich jedu auf dem Wort von dem Baal Shem Tov. Kisiya atem Eretz Chefetz, jeder Ried befragt wird geglichen zu Eretz Chefetz zu Ort.
So I bought a Greyhound bus ticket for $100 and I went off to look for America. I went around the States meeting many, many rabbis of all kinds. And eventually I got to see the Rebbe in a meeting that changed my life. I asked the Rebbe my questions, the questions of a young sophomore student. He got through them quite rapidly, and that was the extraordinary moment when he suddenly did a role reversal. My questions ended, and his questions began. How many Jewish students were there at Cambridge? How many came along to the Jewish Society? We estimated in those days that we were losing 90% of our Jewish students who were just drifting away. And the Rebbe started saying, and what are you doing about it? And I really didn't expect this because I never saw myself as a leader or somebody involved in as it were, reaching out. And I suddenly realized the Rebbe was challenging me to go and lead.
Sie wird angerufen Eretz Chefetz, der Fall was inne wenig kriegen, a wohnen Tevis und Margolies. Sie liegt ab Mayim Chayim. Sie liegen Kamo Eitzes, was seine Gonus bemavi ho Adomo.
The Rebbe taught me something very important, that the most transformative moments in your life happen when somebody else believes in you more than you believe in yourself.
Der Unterschied in Norsi, da bei ihnen, was gefühlen sich Korev, zu dem Eberflach, bemele darf man ein bisschen agrobter. Gefinden gleich dem Even Tevo, gefinden gleich dem Mayim Chayim. Sie da a Sehne, was mir darf groben tiefer und noch tiefer, kdei arobzunehmen mit alle Unionen, Hamalimim und Mastirim.
I was at Torres Chaim, which was on Belmont Avenue in Brooklyn. Shortly before my 10th birthday, my mother and my baby sister and myself went to see the Rebbe. We went to 770, and my mother started to talk to the Rebbe. My son, Shalom, he's been thrown out of the yeshivas, and the rabbi says this, and he's not listening, and the rabbis are complaining he doesn't like the school, he doesn't like the homework, he doesn't like the program, he likes eating stuff in class, and then my mother's crying and crying because she was searching for answers. The Rebbe turns to me, and he smiles, and he goes, "Come here." So I started the conversation. Because I was ready. I said to the Rebbe, "You're the Rebbe?" So the Rebbe looks at me with a big smile. He says to me 3 questions. The first question was, "Are you a good boy?" I said, "No," with conviction. I was ready. I was used to the scene. So then he says, "You like school?" I said, "No." Then he says to me, "Do you listen to your mother?" I go, "No." So with a big smile, he turns to my mother and he goes, Emes, it's good.
Hat aufgegraben, die Mayim Chayim, was sie behalten bei jeder Rieden. a viele bei dem Mieden, was ruft sich an der Weiler. Beshem Acher ist a sichere Sache, a sichert von Eretz Chefetz, a sichere Sache, a verbunden mit Mekel, Mayim, Chaim, Avaya, Lekim, Chaim.
It's good. And that was, wow. I jumped right back into the whole scene.
Man darf sich mehr nicht haben Geduld und nicht jallen in Kirche wie Gier. Auf der Grobensach und aufgraben dem Bejehr, bis wann es getan im Stürmen, dem Mayim Chaim Shebetecha, aber das gewähnt der Weder von den Baal HaYilul.
My father was an Orthodox rabbi. He was a Musmach from Slobodka. And unfortunately, he died when I was 7. My mom, as a single parent, I guess was looking for some sort of help and reassurance. He was very Makarev. I'd walk with my mom sometimes on Eastern Parkway, and if the Rebbe happened to be walking, he would just kind of like touch his hat as if to acknowledge that she was there. And that meant so much. Then when I was in college, my mom had wanted me to come with her, so I'd have the experience. He asked questions about what I was doing at college. I was involved in the Jewish Culture Foundation because NYU was a big university, and I wanted to maintain whatever was important Jewishly. A short time after the meeting, I do remember the excitement of getting this letter at NYU. Blessings and greetings. The life's purpose of every Jew has been clearly defined as far back as the revelation at Mount Sinai. We were then ordained as a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Every one of us, man or woman, must fulfill priestly functions to bring God to the people and to elevate the people to be nearer to God. Our father Abraham has taught us what one individual can achieve. For one was Abraham, yet he inherited all the earth. Our age, which some people prefer to call the atomic age, has further demonstrated that in the minutest quantity of matter, tremendous stores of energy may be found. All that is necessary is to discover them and then harness these stores of energy to constructive purposes. I feel sure that the thoughts expressed in the above lines will find their proper response in your heart and in the hearts of your colleagues and friends. Cordially, Menachem Schneerson. I shared it with the director and the other officers, and we really succeeded in having a lot of Yiddishkeit there.
When I moved to New York and got married, I started a beginner's minyan at our shul here in Manhattan. It was basically an introductory service for Jewish adults that may or may not have had the benefit of a Jewish education. We launched it on Rosh Hashanah because we thought that was an auspicious time to try and attract people and so forth. And I was leading it with not a great deal of preparation, but nevertheless I did my best to lead it. And it turned out to have been a success. I remember, as I always did every year, going to visit the Rebbe for Lekach between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And always long lines. Lekach time was no exception, and you could see people coming to him and expressing their own needs and their own worries and requests for advice, requests for blessings and so forth. Everybody asking and asking and asking the Rebbe for things. I thought to myself, this year I'm going to be different. I'm going to give the Rebbe some nachas. I'm going to give him some good news and make him happy and proud and smile and especially make him proud of me.
I'd like to let the Rebbe know, I hope he has some nachas from the following. This Rosh Hashanah in our shul, I started a minyan for beginners who don't know anything. We had 200 people. 200. On Rosh Hashanah, and Yetz Hashem for Yom Kippur we'll have also. And the Shabbos, we started the first regular Shabbos, we had about 50 people.
Shabbos, last Shabbos.
people without any background to start learning a little bit about Yiddishkeit. And I'd like the Rebbe's bracha that we should continue.
And I expected a big yasher koach from the Rebbe. I expected the Rebbe to give me a high five and to congratulate me and so forth. When I said the words, Jews without any Jewish background, the Rebbe's smile disappeared. And he looked at me with his piercing blue eyes, and I knew that I had said something very, very wrong. And I didn't know what.
He'll explain to all these people they have a real background of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yankov. And so the Rivka Rachel the Leah. That's for you, and that's for the people who have no background.
The Rebbe was saying, this is royalty you're talking about. These aren't Jews without any background, this is royalty. And that was the Rebbe for every Jew. For the Rebbe was royalty.
You know, we were Pashto mention, but everybody counted, and that's the important thing.
He said I was Emes. At that point, it pulled me right back into Yiddishkeit.
Last night in London, Jonathan Sacks became the new chief rabbi, a figurehead for the whole of Anglo Jewry, and one of the most influential rabbis in the world.
That's what the Rebbe did. You saw your reflection in his eyes, and you were suddenly much bigger than you thought you were.
The Rebbe didn't only see extraordinary potential in the ordinary. Even those that others would look at as disabled, the Rebbe saw in them special potential and great opportunity. In 1976, there was a delegation of wounded Israeli soldiers who came to the Paralympics, and they went to visit the Rebbe in a historic visit. And at that time, the Rebbe spoke to them about how we shouldn't think about people as disabled. And years ahead of his time, the Rebbe spoke about how we should look at people as special, recognizing the special capabilities that Hashem has given them.
מלחמת ההתשה, נפצעתי, והשיקום הממשי שלנו היה דרך הספורט. השתתפנו כשחקני כדורעף בנבחרת הנכים של ארגון נכי צה"ל.
ב-1976 התקיימה האולימפיאדה בטורונטו בקנדה, והייתי מהמייסדים והמובילים של הארגון הזה לשיקום נכי המלחמה.
Of all the sports represented at the Olympiad, basketball is the best attended, drawing standing room only crowds for every game, especially those between the two giants of the sport, the US and Israel.
וחשבתי שלא יכול להיות דבר יותר מובן מאליו מאשר לטוס לניו יורק ולבקר את הרבי. והתקשרתי למזכירו של הרבי ומיד התקבלתי בתשובה חיובית בחמימות וקבענו את המועד.
אני שגדלתי בקיבוץ חילוני, במסגרת חילונית, שכל הקשר שלי לדת היה רחוק מזרח ממערב, שיוסי לוקר אמר שצריכים להיפגש עם הרבי מלובביץ', אמרתי בסדר, אוקיי, ניפגש איתו, זה לא... שמעתי עליו, וכבר כשהתקרבנו, כשירדנו מהאוטובוס, חשנו בעמולה, בהתרגשות הגדולה מסביב. הגענו לאולם גדול, בית הכנסת הגדול, ומסביב היו אלפי בני ישיבה חרדים בהתרגשות גדולה.
מוכרח לומר, אני אישית בהתרגשות רבה. וזו הייתה איזו רוח מיוחדת, רוח של קדושה. ויצא הרבי ועלה על הבמה ודיבר אלינו.
אני אדם בעבור אשכנזי, גרתי בתקוותי שכולם יבינו את זה.
היה איתנו מתורגמן שעמד לתרגם מיידיש, ולהפתעתנו הרבי דיבר איתנו בעברית, בעברית, מה שנקרא עברית של ביאליק, במילאל. וראית שעומד מולך איש מאוד מיוחד, מאוד מאוד אחר, והמסר שלו היה, אתם חזקים, אתם גיבורים, אתם לא נכים.
אין די כי נכה מהשם שנסים למישהו שהוא נכה, שזהו מראה על משהו נחיסוס וירידו, כי אם אדרבה צורך להדגיש בזה שהוא משהו מיוחד ומצוין על ידי ברי האדם שנוסם לכיחס מיוחדים יסיירים על מה שישנו לאדם מן השורה, ולכן דווקא ביכולתי להסגבר על קושיים ומניעס שאין ביכולת להסגבר עליהם לאדם מן השורה. ולכן הייתי מציע שישנו השם ויקורו מצוינים בישראל.
ישבנו קסומים שמה, האזנו לדרשה שלו, ואני כאדם שעסקתי כל חיי בתחום הזה, אני יכול לומר שדברי הרבי היו נר לרגליי, ומצאתי אנשים שנפגעו בצורה הכי קשה, עיוורים ומשותקים וכן הלאה, ובמעט שנשאר להם, הם הגיעו להישגים הכי גדולים שאדם יכול לתאר לעצמו, שזה דבר שאדם שלא מכיר את התחום הזה וכן הלאה, לא יכול להאמין. וזה הרבי תפס מיד כשהוא ראה אותנו וכשהוא קיבל אותנו.
ובעזרת ההתייחסות של הרבי שקרא לנו מצויני צה"ל, בעקבות זה, עם השנים אני הייתי שותף להקמה של ארגון שנקרא אתגרים. ארגון שמנסה באמצעות ספורט אתגרי, לקחת ילדים עיוורים וקטועים ומשותקים ופגועי נפש מנטלית. היום אני מביא אותם למאות, לאלפי, אפילו לעשרות אלפי החולים שלי, ובצורה זו אני מצליח לרפא אותם.
בברכו בתדו רבה על הכובד הגודל שנזכבדתי על ידי הביקור שלכם, והיא רוצן שרבי פעמים תצליחו להוביל שמחה ואב ויהדות בכל מקום שתבקרו, הם בחוץ לארץ ולאחרי זה גם כן בארץ הקודש.
וכשהוא סיים את הדרשה, הרבי ירד אלינו. דבר שאמרו לי שזה דבר שהוא לא מקובל. הוא ירד אלינו, לחץ את ידי כולם, ידי כל המשלחת, הוא לחץ את ידי. זה היה מין חיזיון שקשה לתאר אותו. חשנו שהאיש באמת אוהב אותנו. אוהב את הנתן ומעריך את הנכים שתרמו מגופם לשלמותה של מדינת ישראל.
The famous Holocaust survivor, Elie Wiesel, a noted professor and Nobel laureate, writes in his memoirs that once, during a deep theological discussion, the Lubavitcher Rebbe changed the topic and asked him why he wasn't married. And then the Rebbe encouraged him to unlock his potential and build a family, even in the face of the unspeakable loss and pain that he had endured. Come, let's take a look.
I had a friend called Gershon Jacobson. He was working for a Yiddish paper, I think for the Morgenjournal. I was working for the Forwards. And we would meet at meetings, press conferences and so forth. And I liked him. And he said to me, you must come to Fabringen. Let's all Fabringen. And I came. And I saw the Rebbe really. I saw the Rebbe at work, and that was enough. I saw him. And I realized that all the tsar in the world, all the pain in the world, all the Jewish you saw him in the world, were on his face. Then I asked for a Fabringen, and of course I came and we spent, I thought 10 minutes, then I thought 20 minutes, then I thought maybe a half hour. We spent like 2 or 3 hours. And he said, come back. and came back as often as possible, as I could. For a while, he saw that I disagreed with him on getting married. There are many letters which you don't have, personal letters, about getting married and what it means to get married. But he did not follow my protest. He understood it, but he didn't follow it. Yet he understood that my protest was an inner protest from inside the Emunah, not outside the Emunah. It wasn't even against the Emunah. It was because of Emunah that I had a protest. As I think I said it to him. I said, I don't have chutzpah klape Shemaya, but I have trunia klape Shemaya. And he understood it. Of course he did. When I got married in Jerusalem, the most beautiful bouquet of flowers I received in my life, probably, was a rebbe's, with a little note there, and then I got a letter. He belongs to a deep zone in my life. It's like Yaakov Avinu, like from Avinu, the most Yekna Shalovi came to him at a critical moment. And with me, if I have, let's say, I'm at a crossroad and I need to make a decision, right or left, what do I do? I ask either literally, I see the face of my mother or my father, and I know it comes to Ruchnius. I see the rabbis do the Yekna Shel Rebbe. I must say that personally I miss him profoundly and terribly.
Thank you very much. One time I have not seen you. As I read about you in life, not enough. Amen. I need noch mehr. Nicht bringen es leider. Nicht bringen es.
Even in something seemingly vain, like physical beauty, the Rebbe saw immense potential that can and should be utilized to bring holiness and goodness to humanity. This was an exchange between the Rebbe and Miss Israel, the winner of Israel's 1991 beauty pageant.
אני מלכת היופי של ישראל, אני מייצגת את מדינת ישראל, אני מבקשת שתברך אותי באושר ובברכה. אני מבקשת שתברך את כל המשפחה שלי באושר, שאני אתחתן במהירות.
זה בצורות טובות והצלחה רבה.
תודה רבה.
בצורות טובות והצלחה רבה.
תודה רבה, באושר ובבריאות. תודה. תודה.
כוסף והתפרנח בתורו ששקר הישי. אבל נחת כן בהמשך איש ירס השם יתסהלו. ומפורשים, ואיסת במפורשים שעוז בין איש ירס השם היא מנצלת את הישי שלו ועליונים יופים בתיר ובמצוות.
תודה רבה.
הבנת מה שהרב אומר?
תמסור את זה גם לחברת שלו.
תודה.
להסגניות ולכל המשתתפים.
תודה רבה.
זה בשביל כל המשתתפות.
תודה רבה.
This perspective of the Rebbe to see the inner potential within was not limited to Jewish people. In the Rebbe's worldview, every human being was a divine agent, put in a particular place at a particular time to accomplish a unique and awesome task. This is the story of Shirley Chisholm, the first African-American woman to be elected to the United States Congress.
Dr. David Lukens is chair of the Political Science Department at Touro College. For 20 years, he served on the staff of U.S. Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan.
My two best stories about the Rebbe in public policy, and I use them in class. I actually used them. The first one I used in class in American politics as an example. There was a woman in Brooklyn, college teacher named Shirley Chisholm. She got elected to the United States Congress in the mid-60s. She was a fiery speaker. She was considered a black power advocate. Whites were scared silly of her. And she was the first black woman ever elected to the United States Congress, and she was a bomb thrower.
I am the only unbought and unbossed politician. And I mean that literally. And I think that you have to recognize that because I am not white, and because I'm not a male, that I am not going to get the blessings of the power structure in this country.
So the white Southern racists that ran the U.S. House of Representatives from the South said, we'll teach this blank a lesson And they assigned her to the Agricultural Committee of the House of Representatives. It was a great gelächter, it was a great joke. I still remember the New York Times front page article said, "Does a tree grow in Brooklyn?" And they said, the chairman, they've appointed Shirley Chisholm, not to housing, which she requested, not to a committee on poverty, but the Agriculture Committee. And when she retired from the House, I was there when she told the following story. She said she was very depressed and very upset and didn't know what to do. She got a phone call. The Lubavitcher rabbi wants to see you. And of course, she was the congresswoman from Crown Heights. She had helped win the election, the primary, with the strong support of Lubavitch. She had some very close relationship with people in the Crown Heights community. And she came to see the Rebbe. And he sat down and he said, "I know you're very upset." She says, "I am upset. I'm insulted. What should I do?" And he said, "What a blessing God's given you. This country has so much surplus food, and there's so many hungry people. And you can use this gift that God's given you to feed hungry people. Find a creative way to do it." And she says the first day she came to Washington, she met a young congressman who's now a world-famous figure, Robert Dole from Kansas. And they started talking, and he said, our farmers have all this extra food, we don't know what to do with it. She said, "One second, the rabbi." And what we call WIC and food stamps largely expanded. It was a tiny pilot program before. The whole existing food stamps program came out of the Agriculture Committee of the United States Congress, and Shirley Chisholm said, in front of everyone there in Washington, she said, "I owe this because a rabbi who was an optimist taught me optimism, taught me that what God gives, what you may think is a challenge, is a gift from God." She said, "If poor children, babies," I heard her say this, she said, "poor babies have milk, if poor children have food, it's because this rabbi in Crown Heights had vision."
How did the Rebbe manage to unearth this potential in others? How did he empower so many to see greatness within themselves? How can we emulate his example? Perhaps the answer lies in this simple truth. The Rebbe genuinely cared about and wholeheartedly loved his fellow man, believing that if God created you and placed you on this earth, then you are indeed precious and to be lovingly treasured.
I grew up in the golden age of Lubavitch. So from a very young age, there were so many opportunities to see the Rebbe, to interface with the Rebbe. The Rebbe was there to lift us up, to give us perspective, solace when necessary, encouragement, to share the joys. A world with the Rebbe in it was a world that had an anchor.
I was a reporter at the New York Times from 1975 to 1993. And in those years, I had many opportunities to write about the growth of the Lubavitch movement and to write about Rabbi Schneerson in particular. I think most celebrities are people that you may admire, but you don't get a sense that they care that much about you. The Rebbe was different. He really cared about every person.
זה הבא שלו, בפעם הראשונה, זה להצלחה רבה, בשביל הסיור שלו בציורים שלו, המלאכה רבה. הצלחה רבה בכל הציורים החדשים. I have not seen you a long time, all since I arrived.
Could be a little bit better.
Then it will be a lot better.
Amen.
בנצל כל האפשריות, להפיץ היהדות האמיתית, ומתייחסים לך בטוב לבו.
כן, אני יודעת.
להכיר אותם כן בשורות טובות בענייניך הפרטיים.
אוי, תודה. תודה.
והעבודה שלי היא גם כן הסתרבות בעניינים הפרטיים של כל הפנים אליי.
זה יותר חשוב לי ממה שאמרת עד עכשיו.
He wanted you to be a better person. He wanted you to be a better Jew. He wanted you to practice the rituals and the commandments of Judaism. Those things would make you a better person and make the world better.
I am a writer, primarily on Jewish themes, and I've recently completed a 5-year project on the Rebbe. The Rebbe had a greater capacity than anyone I've ever come across to appreciate that a human being is created in the divine image. He saw that spark of divinity in every Jew, that every Jew therefore was connected even if that person felt distant now.
You're not changing anything, you're only returning to your real essence and doing so on your own volition, and then it will come to you automatically to progress in all things of Yiddishkeit.
The Rebbe was still seeing that divine spark within them. He saw not only who they were now, he saw also what they could become and how precious they were.
Ich habe gekommen zu finden, ein bisschen Jüdischkeit, ein bisschen mehr Jüdischkeit.
Ich hatte
Und ich will helfen.
Ich war versucht, was ich im Herzen zu gefunden habe, sagt mehr, wie sie gefunden noch da. Ich darf verrissen, von der Herz. Wir werden aktiv und noch viel mit euch im Ganzen. Jüdische Herz. What happened to the book?
Well, I'm doing some things in that direction, which I'll inform you as it goes along.
It takes you too long here.
You're right.
You have much more things to do after you finish that.
Okay.
This was a wonderful year, Baruch Hashem, but this was our greatest accomplishment of 1988. To be elected a senator was nice, but this was the best.
But don't be satisfied. It's only with you.
Okay, we both heard.
Depends more on you, probably.
Hebt sich an herumgucken, wird man erschrocken, was tut sich das in der Welt. Und was mit der und mit Schone, ist Achscher Dore bit mir. Am geht sich a gucken, nieder Chelik Atevis Geber und nieder Seder wird als starker und nicht gedusche Veruchni ist. Is Meshel Veshelet nor Lichayere Leheper. A das is a Linie von a Jahr, was dort gewaltig in Chayis Reus.
The Rebbe's mission was to call the world's bluff and reach right in and invert its reality and expose the core, expose the goodness. And he did that on every level, to the world entire, to each person he touched.
Man soll wissen sein, dass man gefühlt sich in einer teure Welt. Das ist eine Welt, wo sie ist ein Gang. Und nicht stamm a Sode, eise Tvur, nur das ist ein Gang von eise Peres. Das ist eine Samen-Welt, wo der Eibester sagt, dass das ein Paradies, wo das ein Paradische Leben.
My dear friends, the Rebbe saw the potential in all of us. When you went into the Rebbe picked you up and picked you up to the highest levels you can reach, to reach your maximized potential. Please watch a wonderful interview now of the greatest genius of our times, Rabbi Adin Even Yisrael, known as Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, who translated the entire Talmud and wrote over 25 scholarly writings. Please watch an interview that he gave about the Rebbe.
I wrote to the Rebbe, I said, I'm just overwhelmed by work. Except for all kinds of small things. I'm involved in three major projects. And except for, I know dozens of smaller ones, but the major projects that are more or less constant. And the point is, it is, I don't know if I wrote it, but I said it is overwhelming. And for that I got an answer. The answer was, so my main question was, what should I drop? I don't know that the three things that are important, each of them in a different level and different way. But it seems that they're too much for one person. So, and I have to be involved in a way personally, what to drop. And the main point of the answer was, you go on, you continue to do all these things, and try to do more things. That was really the last thing that the last message that I had from the Rebbe. How much can you stuff into a box? See, how can say? See, they say, okay, You squeeze it more, and squeeze it more. But there's an end to the squeezing. And what I said, that from physics we know that there is an end of squeezing only for in a certain level. If you go on from pressure, not from usual pressure, but a pressure that is perhaps 1,000, 10,000 times as much, perhaps 100,000 times as much, the matter collapses and is rearranged. It is rearranged, and then you can put in. There's also a limit to that, but it is beyond the limits because you change the very nature of matter. So I think that what the Rebbe wanted to do with everybody, which he did with himself, was to create a new kind of matter.
Beschaß mich verbindet sich mit der Sache, wo sie gefühlt sich eben, mit der Sache, wo sie lemeile min azman und min amoke, ist afal pi, was gefühlt sich in Zman und in Moke, gibt ihm der Eberste die Möglichkeit, als ich ihn sehe, wird durchführen den Ebersten Schlichus. Beschaß mich verbunden eben, oder dämmelt fällt mir nicht unten.
It was June of 1994, and the Rebbe had just passed away. At the funeral in Queens, New York, everyone wondered, where to from here? Then a voice was heard, a voice from the depths of the heart, promising that we would continue to carry the Rebbe's message forward. Indeed, 26 years after the Rebbe's passing, his influence continues to grow. At the 62 Chabad centers across Northern California, and in the Chabad centers around the world, we, his emissaries, endeavor to follow his example to unlock and reveal the godly potential within humanity and all of life. Tonight, as we gather to celebrate the Rebbe's 70th year of leadership, we hope you too will carry his message forward.
Lubavitcher Jews around the world today began 7 days of mourning for their beloved leader, Rabbi Schneerson.
Rabbi Schneerson was a great leader of the Lubavitcher people. He was a great religious leader of the Jewish people. He was also a great religious leader of all people all throughout the world.
The Rebbe rewrote the book on what it meant to be a Hasidic leader. The Rebbe sort of broke down that wall and said, I have something to give and to contribute and to teach to all Jews. He was one of a kind. So with him gone, how could the movement survive?
The Rebbe's passing was a loss on a personal level, but beyond that, it seemed to be the eclipse of a light the world needed so badly. That was the true loss. But as it turned out, that was never lost. It lives on in the Rebbe's teaching, in the Rebbe's direction, that fuel our work today.
When you are stranded in the wilderness, you really don't know anything. So you have a light, and the light guides you, and then somehow the light is extinguished in the middle of the night in some moment. How do you feel that? And you have, on the other hand, you don't have any permission to stop. See, and the Rebbe gave an order, marching orders, and so you have to go on marching.
For the Rebbe, there was nothing more precious than every single human being, and there was nothing more precious than every single mitzvah. The marching orders were, bring these two preciousnesses together.
כשהסעיד tut a mitzvah in der Welt, tut a schliches Abdeben dem Ebersten Quajoch. Wir darf mazmisch sagen, den Potter als a Prumerid, ist jede Mitzvah, was tut, ist auf seiner Matone, was gibt dem Ebersten.
One of the ways in which this book itself profoundly influenced me was the Rebbe's insistence on the importance of every mitzvah, which brings me now, when I do a mitzvah, to have a much greater increased sense of its power to affect me.
את מדליקה בשבת. אז את תראה שכל החברות שלו יעשו גם כן. Everywhere was, it put in tefillin,
you eat and you are true to you. Someone else, he must begin putting film. That alone is a very worthwhile endeavor for adding a Jew to put film. You're welcome.
The Rebbe saw each person as a stakeholder in this awesome project. We have the responsibility and the privilege of moving it forward. By adding one new mitzvah, everyone can become a stakeholder in the Rebbe's project as it continues to move forward and to grow.
Und als meisef ein Meise, ein Dibu, ein Achlot, lezad Atev, is neise, was peilt auf sich, peilt rechet al Bnei Beise, und peilt, wie der Rambam schreibt, als Psag Din, al kol ha'elam kuli umachrie, lekar schus, bringt uns die Gejule bepeil, mamash, die tech simcha, vetur levo.
I could never have imagined today, in 2020, that Chabad is what it is today in Northern California. There's a network of 136 rabbis and rebbitzins in 62 Chabad houses serving the needs of the Jewish community with a network of day schools, early childhood centers, mikvahs, synagogues, social services, rally rabbis, and many, many more programs. Annually, Chabad of Northern California touches lives of more than 100,000 individuals throughout the community and on 8 college campuses. It is such a delight and an honor to be an emissary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, to be able to serve all of you. Thank you and God bless you.
The Rebbe rarely spoke about himself, but in an unusual correspondence about himself, the Rebbe wrote that since his early childhood he envisioned a world foretold by the prophets of old, a world of Mashiach, a world where that divine energy and potential is finally unlocked and revealed. There was not a talk that went by without the Rebbe expressing his yearning for Mashiach. Indeed, he made it his life's goal and mission to prepare the world for the coming of Mashiach. And he called upon us to do the same by doing mitzvot to make Mashiach a reality. So we conclude this evening by sharing the Rebbe's charge to us and enthusiastically encouraging children in Brooklyn, New York in 1980 to express this desire and yearning for Mashiach in the then new song, We Want Mashiach Now.
Is auch damals geworden noch mehr der Hechlich, aber man muss ihn drauf tun. Nur wenn der mir sagt, habe ich Chance drauf, wegen drauf, besser soll nicht tun. Muss man mit Farsen sein, bei Jesser Reis und bei Jesser Reis. Als jeder soll wissen, als durch sein 91. Meister und der sein 91. Dieb und der sein 91. Machschove soll wissen sein, als Rettich wegen Jikwisse dem Schiche. Und in der Ruf Gufi Jikwisse dem Schiche. Und nun der Ruf Gufi dort der Psagdin von Levi Yishuv Zolle Beilom.
Want to tell the Rebbe the words of the new song that we're singing with Mashiach, right? So I'm just going to read him. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Okay?